Hey guys, Math 6, negative numbers is what we're talking about today. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is adding and subtracting with negatives. So, we need to think about a number line, okay? Number lines are so useful when talking about negative numbers. Alright, so let's start with a problem that actually has nothing to do with negatives at all. 4 plus 5, okay? But we're going to use the number line because the concept behind using the number line is what really helps us when it comes to negatives. So 4 plus 5, well, what does that mean? So the first thing we do is we start at 4. And then what do we do to it? We add 5, okay? Add means what direction on a number line, means go to the right, and that says how many we go to the right, okay? So we all know the answer is 9, okay? But if we use this little method here, which makes pretty easy sense, we'll get the concept down. So start at 4. So I'm just going to call that 4. Doesn't matter if the zero's there or wherever. Let's just say that's 4, okay? And then we're going to do what? We're going to add, so that means go to the right. How many? 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So whatever that is right there, that's our answer. So if that's 4, that must mean that is 5, 6, 7, 8, and of course, we come to 9 as our answer. So we know we already knew it's 9 and we know it. But I want you to get in the habit of saying, okay, where do we start? Where do we go? And by how many? Okay? Where do we start? What direction do we then travel? And by how many? Alright, so let's take the problem 10 minus 12. Okay? Well, first of all, we need to think about where do we start. Okay? We're starting at 10, and then what are we doing? We're subtracting. Subtracting means go left on the number line, and left how many? 12 times. Okay, so what that means is I'm going to have to go left 12. So I probably shouldn't put 10 there, because what that would mean is I'd have to go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and see, then I'd have to keep going that way, and there's no more number line. So I wouldn't recommend it. Let's put it kind of at the far end. Let's put 10 maybe right there. And now what do we do to it? We're going to go left how many? 12. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the question is, what is that spot right there? Well, if that's 10 here, that'd be 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, I'm sorry, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. It's 5 right there. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 is right there. But then what's that? What's less than 0 by 1? Negative 1, and then right there, negative 2 is our answer. So what is 10 minus 12? It's negative 2. Alright, so let's try this one. Negative 3 minus 8. So I'm starting at a negative 3. I'm going to subtract, which means go left, by 8. Okay? So I need room to at least go 8 to the left. So I'm going to start my negative 3, like let's call it right there. Now, if that is negative 3 right there, what would that be? Well, that'd be negative 2. That'd be negative 1, and that would be 0 right there, okay? But we're not even going that way. We're going this way. So we're going left 8. So negative 3. So we can even count it out. Negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. That's 4 jumps. Negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative, boom, right there, negative 11. So negative 3 minus 8 is negative 11. Now, you might be noticing something. Negative 3 minus 8. What if it was just a simple 3 plus 8? What's 3 plus 8? Positive 11. But if I have a negative 3 minus an 8, the answer is negative 11. Well, something to think about. All right, so I want you to try this one. Pause the video, play it when you're done, see how you do. Okay, so again, we always start with the first number and say this is where we're starting, this is what direction we're going, and this is how many we're going that direction. So add means go to the right, okay? So we're starting at negative 12 and we're going to the right 7. So I got to have room to go 7 this way, so I'll maybe start like right there. So that's negative 12 right there. So if I go to the right 7, it means it's counted out. So you can either count, and so what would this be? Well, if this is negative 12, that'd be negative 13, negative 14. So going the other way would be negative 11, negative 10, negative 8, negative 9, negative 8. You get the idea. I'd kind of like to do this first and just count the jumps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then go back and figure out what the numbers are. So if that's negative 12, that's negative 11, negative 10, negative 9, negative 8, negative 7, negative 6, negative, right there, negative 5. That is negative 5. And what you also might notice is that, what's 12 minus 7? Positive 12 minus 7, positive 7 is 5. Negative 12 plus 7 is negative 5. Huh, interesting. All right, so let's try this one. Negative 7 plus 11. Starting at negative 7, I'm going plus means to the right, 11. So I got to have room to go 11, so I'll start my negative 7 maybe right about there. Now I've got to go to the right how many? 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The question is, what is that spot right there? Well, if that's negative 7, that's negative 6, negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0. So, sorry, I lost count. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0 is right there. Okay. But if I'm going beyond 0, what's next? Well, that's 1, 2, 3, and finally 4. Our answer is 4. So we started in the negatives, but because we added more than 7, we got back into the positives and at positive 4. All right, so now we have to be also proficient in what I like to call sign simplifying. Sometimes we're given problems where two signs are right next to each other and we have to simplify them down, okay? So 3 plus negative 5 plus a negative, okay, so plus a negative, that becomes subtraction. So what is 3 plus negative 5? I like to do this, circle both of them, and write minus. So it actually means 3 minus 5. And now that's a problem we can do. Find a 3, start there. That means I'm going left, how many? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if that's 3, that's 2, that's 1, that's 0, and now we're into the negatives, negative 1, and right there is negative 2. So our answer is negative 2. Now this is the other type of sign simplifying we need to be okay with, and that is when we have a number minus a negative number. So minus a negative, this one's kind of, I think, a little bit easier to remember because these two minus signs are going to come together to create one plus sign. Okay, so two minus signs, like I said, they come together to create one plus sign. So that one goes there, and then this one, you could think of it as it kind of comes and it turns. If I can get it to turn, there we go, and right there, plus. So what does 4 minus 12 mean? It means 4 plus 12, and that's easy. We don't even need a number line. 4 plus 12, 16, and we're done. All right, so pause the video, try this one, play it when you're done. Okay, so hopefully you saw two signs that are next to each other that need to be simplified. This says negative 3 plus negative 3. Okay, well, what does a plus and negative mean? Well, when it's a plus and negative, it means minus, okay? So it really means negative 3 minus 3. So if I start at negative 3 right here and I minus, it means I go left, how many? 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So if that's negative 3, that's negative 4, negative 5, and then finally right there at negative 6. All right, so now let's briefly talk about multiplying and dividing with negatives. This, I think, is actually easier than adding and subtracting, and the reason is it's all about signs, okay? Negative 3, like, times 7, and 3 times 7 that doesn't look like a times, sorry, times 7, their answers are almost identical, okay? The reason is, well, 3 times 7 is 21, we know that. Negative 3 times 7 is negative 21. So the absolute values of the numbers are both 21, and we'll talk more about absolute value later on. But look, I mean, they're the same except for that one has a negative, okay? It's not like, well, this one is like negative 4, but this one's 10 or negative 10 or something like that. Not with addition and subtraction. Again, you need that number line to be careful. Here, it's super easy. So the rule is a negative times a positive, or a positive times a negative. So when one of the numbers is negative and the other is positive, it's the same thing here. The answer is going to be a negative number. Okay? Now, we also know that if you have a positive number times a positive, that's going to equal a positive. Okay? But if you have a negative times a negative, that is super convenient. The negatives cancel each other out, and it's also a positive number. So the only time when you're multiplying or dividing and you're going to get a negative number is when one of them is negative. If they're both positive, the answer is obviously going to be positive. 3 times 7 is 21. If they're both negative, though, a negative times a negative, it's still going to be a positive. They cancel each other out. So let's work on some problems. All right, so take 4 times negative 6. We remember that a number next to a parentheses means times. So that really means 4 times negative 6. You can write it like that. I kind of like to leave it in the parentheses because I don't have 2 signs right next to each other, but it's okay. So 4 times negative 6. Well, it's easy. What's 4 times 6? If it was positive 6, it'd be 24. Then all we have to do is figure out what is our sign. That's a positive 4, that's a negative 6, and a positive times a negative is a negative 24. All right, so how about this one? Negative 12, parentheses, negative 7. Remember, a number next to a parentheses means times, so you could rewrite it as negative 12 times negative 7 if you want. Well, remember, pretend they're positive for a second. What's 12 times 7? 84. We all know that, okay? But it's a negative 12 times a negative 7. But remember, a negative times a negative actually ends up equaling a positive, so I don't even need a sign in front of my answer because for positive numbers, we don't do that, right? I don't need to have a plus sign in front of that to know it's positive. I just don't put a negative, and we automatically assume it's a positive number, and it is, positive 84. All right, the last thing I'll show you real quick is this little trick that Lauren Hua showed me years ago, okay, that she had learned from another school before she went to Hill Country. And it's a way to remember what the answer to a multiplication or division problem is going to be regarding its sign. Okay, so start on the outside anywhere, but you just have to move 3 spaces in either a line or a diagonal. So for example, what is a positive times a negative? It's going to be a positive. What's a negative times a positive? It's going to be a negative. What's a negative times a negative? It's going to be a positive. What's a positive times a positive? A positive. What's a negative times a negative? It's also a positive. So it's a little tic-tac-toe thing. Again, that's only for multiplication and division. It does not work for addition and subtraction. But we could use it to do a problem like this. We could say, hey, what is negative 12 divided by 3? Well, I automatically know the sign of my number is going to be, well, a negative divided by a positive. Where's an N and a P next to each other? So right here. What's a negative divided by a positive? I know the answer is going to be negative, and then I can just pretend they're positive for a second. What's 12 divided by 3? 4. So the actual answer is negative 4. All right, y'all, that's it for negatives and positives, at least for the video, but they're not going away ever. So we're going to practice this so much in class, but it's so important to get it down. We will talk about this more when I see you next. Bye.